Kevin was so nervous. I was surprised. The other's really special or off the cuff. You know, just Ken Howard texted me. Over the state line, first is basically we'll have to ask him. I'm sure. Aren't they supposed to be the one thing? Floating around in different places. I know it smells good, doesn't it? So, do the fun. Fall down the steps. Bobby? Oh, hear the
Oh, you can hear him. The popsicle. Someone's trying to find the popcorn one.
Hey, this is a special meeting of the Elizabethtown City Council. Cindy Walker will bring our invocation.
Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day. As always, we thank you for the blessing of our family and our friends. Thank you for the blessing of our many employees. Give a special thanks and blessing to our first responders. We also thank you for the armed services who watch over us, who protect our country, and allow us to live in a democracy. We thank you for this council. We thank you for our mayor. We pray that what we do will be pleasing in your eyes and also beneficial to the city and our citizens. We ask that you be with us through this meeting. Continue giving us your blessings. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Join us in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one order of business for the special meeting, and that is a resolution. Resolution number 2, 2016, approving and authorizing an assistance agreement between the City of Elizabethtown, Kentucky and the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority to provide $11,500,000 of loan funds for wastewater system. Motion to read the resolution, please.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Whereas the City Council of the City of Elizabethtown, Kentucky has previously determined that it is in the public interest to acquire and construct certain facilities and improvements to the governmental agency's wastewater system. And whereas the governmental agency has made application to the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority for the purpose of providing monies to construct the project. And whereas in order to obtain such monies, the governmental agency is required to enter into an assistance agreement with the authority. Now therefore, it is resolved that the City of Elizabethtown, Kentucky as follows, by the City of Elizabethtown, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, that the governing authority hereby approves and authorizes the assistance agreement between the governmental agency and the authority dated as of August 1st, 2016, substantially in the form on file with the governmental agency for the purpose of providing the necessary financing to the governmental agency for the project. In Section 2, that the mayor and the city clerk of the City of Elizabethtown be and hereby are authorized, directed, and empowered to execute necessary documents or agreements and to otherwise act on behalf of the governmental agency to effect such financing. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect at the earliest time provided by law.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you. Do you have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we're now in the work session. September the 26th, Elizabethtown City Council. First item of business is the Strawberry Alley closing. Michael Page.
Afternoon. I believe in a previous council meeting, it was discussed about a road closure for Strawberry Alley, a portion between the Thomas Street intersection. Before it was to be closed permanently by ordinance, is requested by the contractor to close it October 10th, 2 weeks from now. It's going to be used in the construction, traffic control, detours, and the typical road barricades.
Do you have any questions?
Is this the one we were talking about having to rename the streets?
Thomas and
Okay,
Strawberry.
so have we decided on that yet?
No, we might want to talk to Ed. Is Ed here? You want to talk about that? Thank you, Michael. Do you have any questions?
We don't have any choice on what Michael's talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
Thanks,
always good when
Michael.
Ed bails you out, trust me.
Yeah, Michael's
it's not
talking about
controversial, Mike.
closing it now for construction. The discussion that you mentioned was that after it's closed for construction, it will then be permanently closed because the construction activity is they're removing the street and they're putting a drainage basin there. So yes, we need to determine street names. That is going to impact addressing along both Thomas Street and Strawberry Alley. We've done a little more research since that discussion. Charlie found a old ordinance that a section of Strawberry Alley was actually renamed a number of years ago to Strawberry Lane. Even though it has always been signed as Strawberry Alley, there is a city ordinance that calls it Strawberry Lane. So we'll have to look at that and look at the addresses for you all. But the discussion was that we would rename, let's see if I say it the right way, the southern section of Strawberry Alley Lane as it goes up to Thomas Street. We would leave that as Strawberry Lane, I guess, since that's the official name on the street,
Which is not a change.
which is not a change. But then the section of Thomas Street, so we'll call this the east section of Thomas Street, I guess, from 31W to Strawberry Lane, would be renamed to Strawberry Lane. Then the section of Thomas Street from Helm to Strawberry Lane would be renamed, or would stay as Thomas Street, and then from Thomas north to Maple would be changed to Thomas Street. Even though I think we found that Thomas Street was called East and West at one time too, so we'll have to probably correct that language in the ordinance that we present to you all also. But we have met as part of the land purchases that Scott handled when he was putting the project together. They worked with Engineering Design Group to prepare a subdivision plat so that we can consolidate all the city's properties together. So the engineers, surveyors are working on that now. They'll have a draft for us to review. Then they're preparing a legal description of the section to be closed. So hopefully we can have that to you all sometime in October, but some of that will be dependent upon them getting their work complete. But I think Michael's issue is pressing, and they're going to be out there in 2 weeks closing it anyway. So.
Ed, let me just throw this out for discussion. I'm not sure that I followed you on if we did this and then close off this, and this would be this and that. But I think that we all received email from TJ Rhodes' son-in-law. Last name Thomas. He's no related to me, but I forget what his first name.
Travis?
But
Travis.
Right, there you go. We received email from him regarding the possibility of renaming a portion of that road that we're closing and changing and opening. And late father-in-law, TJ Rhodes, whose business is located in that vicinity. We did that a couple of years ago. I mean, a similar thing for Flo Bowles behind the News Enterprise, which I thought was very fitting. You know, and no addresses were affected there though. But I think maybe we ought to give consideration if it's not a big change, because TJ Rhodes certainly was a big contributor to the city of Elizabethtown, and we've got others, but his business happens to be located there. But I would like to throw that out to see if there is some way that we might honor him and then rename a portion of that. That wouldn't affect too many, maybe not any, but a portion of that to be named in his memory or honor, TJ Rhodes.
Not all of Strawberry, but just from like South Miles
To
Thomas.
there, that would do it. And I don't know how many addresses that would involve.
That would impact one.
One,
There's currently on the, try to say it right. On the west side,
that's.
yeah, on the
right.
west side of Strawberry Alley right now, I think the address is 308. That would impact that particular piece of property if you all just did something up to Thomas.
I would like to talk to the people at 30. I don't want to inconvenience. That's a big change, as the mayor indicated some time ago, changing your checks and everything else. But I'd like to.
What would you all want to do then between the section of Thomas Street that goes between Dixie and Strawberry? Currently, if you name that section as TJ Rhodes, you still have to rename.
That would have to probably be part of TJ Rhodes. Like that.
Right there.
And that's
Then,
the 5 houses.
then you're affecting 5 houses.
Yeah. Which, that's a big number. I mean, when you change it that many, I'm not sure that I would be comfortable imposing that on those people. One is a little different. I don't know. I'd like to see what the others feel about just that portion. Bobby, the way Ed, couldn't we do?
Well, if we did that from South Miles, Strawberry Lane, and then the new
To-
section, then Thomas, well, you know, that almost needs to be named the same thing, doesn't it? Or-
I mean, that's what we had discussed before, is to make that a continuous singular named section of roadway.
Then you get the.
Then you'd have 5 plus the house on.
Yeah.
Strawberry Lane.
Strawberry Lane.
No, you'd have a total of 5. There'd be four,
Okay.
there's 4 addresses on Thomas that you would change. They're in the 100 block. They're, I think, 101 to 107 currently that you would change, and then you change 308 Strawberry Alley Lane to something else.
Could you all look at it? You said you would have some.
Sure.
things.
Yeah. I mean, we can tell you all that's what I mean. Before you all take action, we can tell you the numbers that it would affect and propose to you all what the new addresses would be, so you all would know what was going on that way. And I mean, and if you want us to look at a couple different scenarios, let us know that,
I'd
and
like-
we
I mean,
can.
if the rest of the group is favorable, I know we can't
That's
decide.
fine.
but I think that would be a nice gesture for.
I mean, we're gonna have to change the names. I mean, we are gonna impact somebody's addresses, as you all pointed out, and it is gonna be an expense for those property owners. And like I said, no matter what you do, we are gonna have some kind of,
So there
Kinda
will be
impact.
residents impacted, period. There's nothing we can
Yeah.
do.
that's right. Yeah.
Is the one house behind me, the one I called Yoko Mitten's old house,
I know which
is
one.
that the only house addressed on Strawberry Lane?
On that section up to
Is there anything,
Thomas, now you go north of Thomas, there's 2 properties that are impacted. One of them has an incorrect address anyway. We've got an even and odd right next to each other, and I don't know historically when the addresses were signed and how that happened, but I mean, we need to fix that anyway, because we've got an even and odd number next to each other, and that's not correct. It should be an odd number on that side of the street, and one of them is an even number, and I don't remember which now, but so we have to fix those anyway.
If you all could just look maybe and give.
And we'll look and try to keep as close to the numbers as we can. I mean, it may be something minor, but if somebody's got their address displayed appropriately, we can have minimal impact.
It was, like I said, it was a nice gesture for Flo Bolts, but there were no addresses involved.
right,
Just
Yeah, that was a section.
Yeah.
That, impacted nobody from an addressing standpoint.
And at that time, I remember, the council at that time had decided that they would not name streets after residents
We
because
have talked,
we would get in a whole lot of trouble.
yeah, we have talked that very thing.
Uh,
I agree.
So that, that's just something that for you all to
needs a lot of research,
consider.
yeah.
Thomas Street wasn't named after me.
That's right.
It's something I,
Ditch yours.
Thank
Huh?
you, Ed.
You got a ditch.
They were-
Michael, one more, did you have another closing you want to talk about?
don't make it so controversial, Mike.
They won't see it for you. Yes, yeah, please stay close, Ed. Last week I talked about CSX railway closures, and there's actually a sign on 31W that says that it was gonna be closed today, September 26th today. They're actually going a little slower than anticipated. They're in the county right now on Tunnel Hill Road, Railroad Crossing. They're gonna be there tomorrow, and the following day, Thursday, they should be at Crutcher Street. I wouldn't anticipate them to be closing US 31W this week, but starting the beginning of next week. I've been dealing with Safety Services, who's the kind of the middleman subcontractor for CSX. They've been kind of vague and when these closures are actually going to be done. But
When they do
They-
Crutcher, what is that, like a 2-day job or?
yes, they usually repair the railroad ties, and then they save the last day for the third day, maybe just do some resurfacing of the pavement. But they can't close East Crutcher and US 31W at the same time because those detours will conflict with each other. So,
Any other closing?
Balmoral still closed. So,
Then after that, it'll be the one that comes up Nicholas.
yeah, Nicholas Street. Yes, sir.
What about the one on the past?
That one they
Public
don't
Works?
have to do any
That's
on
good.
Nicholas Street there, so that'll be another detour they can. It's close
So
by.
Nicholas is the last one.
Gaither Station. It's
Gaither
not less in the county, but it will affect the waste treatment plant and some of the surrounding subdivisions there. So each closing should take 2 to 3 days. It's just getting there, getting it done.
31W will be rough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael. Robert. Drainage.
Thank you.
I'd like to provide a short update of the ongoing work at Covington Ridge. And I kind of outlined here a little task summary. And we're kind of right in the middle of that list. Yeah, but anyway, we started out evaluating the existing basin with the topo of the site. We did a comparison to from the original basin to what's out there. Also looked at the CAD drawings and the engineering design calculations of record. Right now in this process, we're in the middle of trying to redesign the basin. And one of the goals might even be to modify with, maybe an enhanced basin if possible. The original basin was maybe a little skimpy, and, we might add some volume there if at all possible. We'll have to look at the existing terrain, because, the envelope we had to work with is rather abbreviated. It's a small lot, so it's going to be difficult to even get the original design in. But if we can augment in some fashion, I would like to do that. And, maybe 10% more volume, but we're hopeful that we can get something like that done.
When you say more volume, you saying you're gonna have to dig it deeper?
Maybe a little wider in
Because I mean, you're
spots.
limited on
Yes, sir.
area there.
Well, the bottom's defined and kind of the top is defined. So, we'll just have to expand out the envelope, the footprint a little bit. Currently there's some 4-to-1 slopes, and we'll have to just evaluate that. Like I said, it's ambitious when we're going back in that same area and trying to shoehorn a bigger design. But if we can excavate an area and give us a little more boost, we'll certainly take advantage of that.
But Robert, you said maybe 10% would be about all, even if you could do that.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. That's a fair number, Councilman. Yeah. And like I said, it's just an added benefit of being able to go back and look at it again, But if we can just recreate the old one, that'll be satisfactory too. We have contacted the developer, and they are willing, and they've agreed in principle to work with us to reimburse, the city's cost. Of course, that work would be, our cost with our crew and, city trucks and city equipment, city manpower. So we think the work will commence in a couple of weeks. If we can finalize that understanding with the developer, we'll just have to come back and hopefully with some estimate or some good faith commitment as far as it not being an open-ended cost. We believe it to be in the, a few $1,000s, not tens of thousands of dollars, that kind of commitment. And once underway, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, something in that range. Weather's always a consideration. Looking at the bigger picture and, taking a more macro look at this, and understanding the problem, what we're dealing with. One of the things that one tool we have currently is our as-built basin requirement. It's in our current regulatory. And we think if we're judicious about it, implementing that, and making people do that, that's going to put us in a better position where we're not blindsided by something that's not built properly or that we've accepted, and that it's not quite there yet. That'll help a bunch. So we're committed to making sure that, all basins that we have in process now that are being built, that they do meet this standard. The city will also be more aggressive in the inspection of stormwater facilities in the future. Ditches, storm sewers, and detention basins get more attention than in the past. Stormwater is kind of it's a utility that nobody thinks of as a utility. And you all will know from this example that indeed, when those facilities are not in place, it can become very critical. Just like you don't have a water line properly sized, or you don't have the sanitary sewer connection that you expect at your location. So even though it seems easy to overlook and not really a big deal, compared to these other utilities, it is critical. And so more emphasis, I guess, on getting those facilities in place at the beginning of our developments is in order. Annual inspections of our stormwater facilities. I think we're currently doing some post-construction facilities, and that's water quality units all over town. So we'll also incorporate the detention basins in that inspection. Go back, and it'll be a big task, but we'll have to go back and look at each of these basins and make sure the volume's there from the original design, dig through file to find what those designs ought to be. So it's pretty monumental. We've got a lot of basins dotted all over E-Town. Practically every subdivision and practically every development plan has a basin involved. So that's the magnitude of what we're talking about. So it'll take a lot of people, eyes on the ground, and a lot of extra work to do what we're doing. So it isn't going to change overnight, but we will change we'll change it with time. One thing to think about is, considering a framework for maintenance of detention basins into the future. Basins have to be tied to something more substantial than a single property owner. That's just a failure mode, just from the beginning. So, and if you don't have a homeowners association that has a handle on what's involved and not just gloss over, oh, sure, we'll take care of that. We'll throw enough maintenance money in there. 10 years down the road, you'll just have, enough money in there to mow the thing. That's about it. Any sort of catastrophic failure or any sort of, in this case, at the end of its service life, to reconstruct it, those monies have to be there. And it's not a small amount of money. I think that's the big issue, because you're going to have to go and ask developers, ask property owners, or commercial property owners to find a way to put that money somewhere, either in an escrow with us, or in an escrow that we can sign off on, or some sort of bonding methodology, surety of some type. Yes, ma'am. So those kind of things are what we have to think about. And certainly there's nothing hard and fast about what this thing looks like right now. Your all's input, and I guess our input, maybe in the future we'll have it a better thing. So, but that's my presentation. If there's any questions.
Robert, you mentioned we got a bunch. I mean, how many basins do we have?
Well, I hate to take a guess at that, Councilman. It's in probably, that's a good question. There's a bunch. Like I said, every subdivision has at least, it's probably under 100, but probably quite a few.
When you talk about the inspections, my idea of an inspection, or what we did when we went out and looked at this at Covington, is
Yes.
just a couple times in the summer, somebody just ride by and visual and say, are they cutting the grass? Because how fast it grows. I mean, that could cause problems, making sure it is maintained like that.
Right.
I mean, without checking all the,
Right. That's something
just a
if
visual.
we do it annually, or, biannually, whatever it takes, but, all that grass cutting stuff comes out of Ed's office.
And you're talking about once we start the work on this basin here at Covington Ridge,
Yes, sir.
are we taking consideration the property next door, the Henderson property on, didn't we have some drainage
Yes.
problems?
Yeah.
That washing,
There was some-
shouldn't that be addressed at the same time?
There's some comment over there from the folks that visited us
Yeah.
the last time.
They were getting some.
And yes, and I think probably it's in order to look at that. We had a prescription, prescribed a ditch along the rear of that. If you can make that all happen, that would be a solution. Certainly some additional EPSC measures, some silt fence, if there's still any,
For sure.
any areas that are disturbed up there that we didn't omit. Their original permit came to us as a tree cutting permit, and not necessarily as in a mass grading kind of permit. But, in some of that tree cutting work, you can see in that area, there's some fairly well, and then there's some soil disturbance. So maybe some silt fence might be in order to kind of control some of that in the future. Certainly a reseeding and, a finalizing of that area would be a good thing. So we'll try to encourage that too. Getting that grass back up and getting a good grass stand there in place, that will help with absorption and water going into the ground, portions of it, instead of just running straight off as it would on
I
raw
went by
dirt.
there that last
Yes,
rain we had, and I guess where you dug out part of the basin,
Right.
the water flow that was coming across the street and behind Martinez, is his name, that flow was
really good. It wasn't heavy, but I did notice over behind the other houses, behind the Hendrickson
Right.
or Henderson property.
Henderson, yeah.
That ditch line, there is no ditch there because it's all grown up. So all of that water was
Just-
pooling in the street and over at Mrs. Owens' house, which is
Right.
across the street.
I see.
So
There's a-
their water was
that's a
coming
problem.
totally different.
Right.
Yeah, so
from-
there's some ditch work along Birch that needs to occur to better channelize that. Down in
That
front of the
you say
houses.
we were gonna do that.
I think that it wasn't in my original scope, but yes, sir, absolutely. If that's what's
Right,
needed,
that's
we're
what I thought.
trying to look at that from a joint thing. That's more public works kind of stuff, but we'll, work with the public works to make sure we get that done. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. That said, we'll update you.
Yes,
Later on.
see, Robert, from a utility standpoint, I guess, how does MSD handle working with the homeowners? Or how do they do it up there? Or how, is there policies that?
More or less, we check into that, find exactly how to do it. It's been a while since I've been involved. Say, probably the bond process. Also, their goals are a little different than ours, in terms of what quality focus. But if net result is I'll touch base with you. See how they're. See how. I know there's struggle. It's like-
I was just trying to figure how they're, wondering what policy comes to maintenance, be it on the city's part, the property owners, developers, what type of policies have you?
Clearly, some of the successes. Peer review. See what we. Try to get something. No more as we go through this.
Have we communicated with those residents about what this plan is and where you're at with it? Have we
Okay.
communicated with those residents and say, hey, this is what we're looking to do? They have the capacity and we're, yes,
Yeah, I think they were here last time and we communicated this very idea to them, but yeah, we can talk to the Martinez and other residents and let them know that this is the next step is to do this. I think we committed to go ahead and excavate the basin. We saw that as the best solution for everything, to try to return that to normal, where the flows out of that are clamped and don't just overwash the street and don't impact the downstream systems. The outlet structure that is there in the basin is very restrictive, and it should clamp that flow down to where it's much more manageable coming out of it. So the systems downstream, that was kind of my assessment, Councilman, is the systems downstream were more easily accommodate that flow with that clamping of the basin. It's just that basin is not functioning and the flow's just going right over the top of the berm. So that's the problem. But yes, sir, we'll communicate more with them and let them know as we go down this road.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Yes, you all. Thank you.
Chief, you have Citizens Police Academy graduation tonight. Is this your biggest class ever?
Yes, ma'am. It's, tonight is the graduation. You're all invited to come, share some treats, cake and ice cream will be there. And, yes, this is the largest class we had. I think originally it was around 45 signed up, and we have consistently hit in the 40s numbers every class. So we've had, which is excellent. So it's really going, continues to go well.
couple problem students.
When does the next class start?
The next class, I don't have the exact date with me, but it will be in the spring.
That's awesome. If you haven't done it yet,
Yeah. And for those that are interested in kind of keeping track with that, go to our website. Those are always located on there, the dates, and also the application forms for anybody's interested.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you.
He hasn't flunked out yet either. He hasn't flunked out.
Okay. Just to us here. Okay. Okay.
Oh, so cool. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Definitely read it. All right, thank you.